Okay, so we're going to make some homemade fondant. You're going to need 8 cups of icing sugar. I have here 4 cups that's been measured out and fluffed up with the whisk so that it's not packed. I've reserved another 4 cups here that I will be adding in later. I need 2 tablespoons of Crisco. I need 2.5 packages of gelatin that's been bloomed, and by bloomed I mean we're putting 1/4 cup of water, and it has to be like tepid or room temperature, in the 2.5 packages. Stir it with a fork to make sure that all of the powder gets wet, and then let it sit until it gels. And as you can see, it's very gelled, it's not coming out. I need a 1/2 cup of corn syrup. If you're reading elsewhere, it will be called glucose. That's just corn syrup. So there you go, 1/2 cup. And then I'm going to need a tablespoon of food grade glycerin. Now this is picked up at the pharmacy. My bottle's a little bit messed up, but it's food grade glycerin. That's going to give our fondant a really nice texture. So let's take this to the stove. Alright, so I've transferred my bloomed gelatin to a saucepan, as you can see. Sorry for the shaky video. My stove is set on low, that's at 4. So I'm just going to melt that back down to its liquid state, so it just takes a little while for that to happen. As you can see, it's pretty jelly. And just for the sake of this not going so slow, we're going to come back when that's done. Alright, my gelatin is now in its liquid form, as you can see. Hope you can see that well. And once all of the chunks are melted down nicely, I'm going to add my 1/2 cup of corn syrup. And I'm going to stir this until there's no ribbons of that differentiate between the gelatin and the corn syrup. So you just want to stir that all together until it's all one nice uniform texture. As the corn syrup warms up, it will get very smooth and it will mix in nice and evenly. Once I have it nice and even, I'm going to add my 2 tablespoons of Crisco. And I'm just going to melt that down just before all of the little chunks are actually dissolved in. When I have just a couple still left floating around, I'm going to remove it from the heat, and I'm going to add my glycerin to it. There's a few little lumps of Crisco still floating around in the mixture, and I'm going to add my glycerin. Mix it all together until all of the little spots are dissolved in completely, and then we're going to add it to our iced sugar icing. Thank you. Right. Just about all the little chunks of the Crisco are melted in to our mixture. When they're all gone, we're going to add that to our 4 cups of icing sugar that's in our mixing bowl. And we'll come back for that. So I've made a well in the center of my icing sugar, and I'm going to pour my liquid mixture into the center, being very careful not to touch the sides. This is a really, really sticky mixture, so if it gets on the sides, that's where everything is going to stick and you're going to lose a lot of your fondant. So make sure you stay in the center, get all of that liquid in there, and we're going to come back for the next steps. Okay, we're going to start this process off in our KitchenAid, and the dough hook has been liberally covered with Crisco because we don't want all of this fondant, to stick to the dough hook. So we're just going to add that attachment, and as you can see, the liquid is in that little well that we made earlier. Okay, so we got it on there. We're going to start this off, pardon the noise, but it's part of the process. We're going to mix all of this icing sugar until we form a bit of a ball, and then we're going to take it out of the mixer. I'm going to be pulling the icing sugar off the sides of the bowl with my spatula that has been covered liberally with Crisco as well, and I just don't want anything sticking to this. I don't want to lose any of this fondant. Okay, here we go. Bit of the icing sugar mixed into my liquidiness. It's now getting a little thicker and it's gone white. It's not clear any longer. I'm going to add 1 more cup of icing sugar right on top of that. And we're going to give it a bit more of a stir. We just want it get it well started so we don't have to work so hard when we're actually kneading it by hand. So you can start this process, get most of that kneaded in, and then do the final little bit by hand. It makes the job so much easier and a whole lot faster. Right. So as you can see, a lot of this is kind of balled up on the dough hook now. So I'm going to dump that into a small pile of icing sugar that I have on the counter and start kneading until I get almost like Play-Doh, and then I'll be able to put a little Crisco in it and store it to cure for the evening. So I've dumped the fondant out into my little pile of icing sugar, but I need to knead this together. So I'm going to make sure I put a lot of Crisco on my hands. So I don't want it to stick to me either. When you're doing this, make sure that you have a Crisco between your fingers, any place that it's going to stick to you. So make sure that you're greased up nicely. You're going to pull it off the dough hook, which, as you recall, was previously oiled, so we won't lose too much of our fondant there. We should be able to get almost all of it. That's pretty good, I'd say. And we just want to knead this just like we're doing bread. It's very spongy at this point. The gelatin has started to set, so it's going to take a little bit of elbow grease to get this nice and smooth. I can already tell I'm not going to need all of this icing sugar. It's pretty stiff. You want it about the consistency of Play-Doh. So I'm just going to put some Crisco on my table because that's where I'm going to be kneading this fondant before I put it away to cure for the evening. And I just want it to soak up some of this. When you buy store-bought fondant, it's full of emollients that keep it nice and soft. So because ours is homemade, we have to add that, and that would be made with the Crisco, that nice soft, silky feel that you want. Once you have picked up all of that Crisco off of the table, that's about how much you want in there. You can wrap this in airtight stretch wrap, or I like to use press and seal, and put it away. It has to cure overnight or for 24 hours before you can use it. Right? So I'm going to wrap this in press and seal. I want to make sure that there's no air in it. I want it to be airtight. Press and seal works very well by sticking to itself. And then we'll come back to this fondant ready to use tomorrow.